Imagine your morning coffee, or maybe that steak you're planning for dinner, isn't just about, supply and demand, but it's suddenly tangled up in some really high-stakes international political drama.
Yeah, that's exactly what seems to be happening right now between the U.S. and Brazil.
We're going to take a deep dive today into this pretty significant trade dispute. It really blew up around August 6, 2025.
Right. That's when the U.S. tariffs against Brazil officially kicked in.
And this isn't just about economic numbers, is it? It feels like a fascinating look at how trade policy is, becoming a tool.
It really is. And what's critical here, I think, is understanding this isn't just some simple economic imbalance.
Okay.
It really makes you ask, is this just another trade spat? Or are we seeing something maybe more complex?
Like a strategic move, using trade for politics.
Exactly, where trade becomes almost a weapon in a bigger geopolitical game.
So our mission today is to really unpack this whole situation for you. We've got insights from news agencies, legal analysis, all sorts of sources.
Yeah, trying to get at the motivations behind these tariffs, what the real economic impact is.
And crucially, what it all means for global trade and, for you listening as a consumer, as a citizen in this interconnected world.
The spark when trade becomes a weapon.
Okay, let's jump straight to the spark, the immediate flashpoint here. July 9th, 2025.
Right.
Former President Donald Trump announces this huge 50% import tariff on pretty much all Brazilian products.
Yes, sweeping is the word. And it wasn't some quiet policy shift, was it?
Not at all. It felt like a very loud declaration, and it officially started August 6th.
And the former president was very explicit about the why. He didn't really mince words.
Okay.
He directly linked these tariffs to his, quote, dissatisfaction with Brazil prosecuting his political ally, Jair Bolsonaro.
Former Brazilian president.
Exactly. He publicly called that trial a witch hunt.
Wow.
Yeah, and an international disgrace. Went so far as to claim Brazil's actions were a threat to U.S. national security, foreign policy, the economy, the whole 9 yards.
And just for context on Bolsonaro, he lost the 2022 election to the current president, Lula da Silva.
Right.
And now he's facing trial over alleged coup plotting. He was even put under house arrest in August 2025.
By Supreme Court Justice Alexander de Moraes, for allegedly mobilizing supporters in a way that threatened institutions.
So, connecting the dots, Brazil's current president, Lula, sees these tariffs how?
Oh, he sees them as a clear violation of international trade rules. Simple as that.
And political retaliation?
Absolutely. Brazil seems convinced the real aim here is to pressure their judiciary, maybe influence their internal politics.
And they see it as part of something bigger?
They frame it as fitting into a long history of U.S. intervention in Latin America. That's a very loaded phrase, historically speaking.
Understandable. And this move, it's drawn criticism.
Oh, definitely. Sharp criticism. People like Merle Henrich and others, too, they're calling it weaponizing trade policy for political coercion.
And setting a dangerous precedent.
That phrase, dangerous precedent, really hits home. We have to ask, why is it so dangerous?
Okay, why?
Because it essentially goes around the established rules, the WTO framework.
Which is supposed to keep things orderly.
Exactly. Predictable. When a major player uses trade like a political club outside those rules, it kind of invites others to do the same. Tit-for-tat reprisals.
A downward spiral.
Could be. It certainly undermines predictability, makes it hard for anyone to plan. And it suggests a future where maybe market access depends on what ideological alignment.
Or just doing what you're told politically.
Right, instead of fair competition. And that ultimately, the argument goes, risks eroding U.S. credibility and moral authority.
Which impacts everyone, really, if trust breaks down.
Precisely. For you listening, that could mean less stable markets, more geopolitical risk baked into everything.
Feeling the pinch economic realities on both sides.
Okay, let's unpack the actual economic hit. Beyond the politics, how bad is it for Brazil?
Well, the numbers are pretty stark. About 36% of Brazilian exports to the U.S. are affected.
36%? That sounds like a lot.
It is significant. Now, it's about 4% of Brazil's total worldwide exports, so it's not crippling their entire economy overnight. But it feels very targeted, like a surgical strike on key sectors.
Okay, like what?
Like some of their most iconic, economically vital agricultural exports. Think Brazilian coffee.
Right. Big one?
Shipments now face a 50% import duty. 50.
Ouch. And why does that matter specifically to, say, someone listening in the U.S.?
Well, roughly 1/3 of all coffee consumed in the U.S. comes from Brazil.
A third? Wow.
So this isn't some abstract number. It means Brazilian exporters lose huge sales, and you are likely going to feel the pinch. Higher prices for your morning cup.
Okay. And beef. I heard that was hit even harder.
Oh, much harder. Brazilian beef exports are facing a, quote, staggering 76.5% tariff.
76.5, that's it.
Basically, it just closes the door to the U.S. market. Completely shuts it down.
And the cost.
We're talking about a projected $1 billion in second-half exports. Just gone. At risk.
$1 billion. That's devastating for those producers.
Absolutely. It's not just lost revenue. It's potentially losing their main customer overnight. Catastrophic for ranchers, meat packers.
Yeah, that doesn't stop there.
No, the pain spreads. Over half of Brazil's fish and seafood exports usually go to the U.S.
So they're losing buyers, too.
Lost buyers for thousands of metric tons. And think about seafood. It's perishable.
Right. It can't just sit around.
Producers are genuinely worried shipments could rot before reaching new buyers. That's waste, lost investment, huge strain.
And fruits as well.
Fruits like mangoes and grapes are also significantly impacted. Same fears spoilage lost markets.
But you mentioned not everything was hit this hard. Some exemptions.
Yeah, that's interesting. Some key commodities got a pass or much lower duties. Things like nuts, orange juice, coal, iron, tin, petroleum products.
Orange juice. That's a huge Brazilian export.
Massive. It's only facing a 10% tariff. And apparently that's largely because U.S. importers lobbied hard.
Saying what?
Arguing there was basically no substitute for Brazilian juice.
Yeah.
Shows you how industry lobbying can really shape these things, doesn't it?
It really does. So what's the wider economic picture in Brazil now?
It's not pretty. The currency, the Brazilian real, the BRL, it depreciated 27% against the U.S. dollar in 2024.
27%. That's huge for inflation, right? Makes imports way more expensive.
Exactly. Fuels inflation. And it makes servicing foreign debt, which is often in dollars, much, much harder when your currency is weaker.
And the central bank's response, high interest rates.
Yeah, the Selic rate is up at 14.25%.
Yeah.
They're trying to stabilize the currency, fight inflation.
But that high rate has a downside.
Big time. It makes borrowing super expensive for businesses, so it deters long-term investment, the kind Brazil needs for growth.
And are there ripples felt in the U.S. too, besides potentially higher coffee prices?
Yes. Even U.S. groups like the National Restaurant Association have voiced deep concern. They're worried about higher prices for consumers, obviously, but also disrupted supply chains, meaning things might just not be available as reliably.
Brazil's playbook beyond the WTO.
So Brazil's facing these really tough tariffs. What's their game plan? They can't just be taking this right.
No, definitely not sitting idle. Their first sort of official move was expected. They formally requested consultations with the World Trade Organization, the WTO.
Okay, the standard first step in a trade dispute.
Exactly. It's procedural, but it's also more than that, isn't it? It's a political message.
To the U.S. and the world.
Yeah. It reinforces Brazil's role in global trade, shows they still believe in the international rules-based trading system.
A signal that, hey, we respect the international order even if we feel it's being violated against us.
Precisely. It projects that image.
But there's a problem with the WTO right now, isn't there? A big one.
There is. The appellate body, which is like the Supreme Court for trade disputes, it's been paralyzed since December 2019.
Paralyzed how?
Because the U.S. has been blocking the appointment of new judges. So the final binding resolution part, it just doesn't work right now.
So Brazil can start a case, but it can't really be finished.
Not in a binding way, no. And even if it could, these things can be incredibly slow. Far too slow, sometimes taking decades.
Decades, wow. So if the system is broken, why even bother going to the WTO?
That's the key question, isn't it? Brazil's vice president, Geraldo Alckmin, confirmed they're ready to defend its trade interests through the WTO.
So why?
Well, partly it's about principle, demonstrating commitment to international law, like we said.
Okay.
But maybe it's also a more pointed message, a way of showing other countries that perhaps the reliable superpower, at least when it comes to trade rules,
might not be the U.S. anymore.
That seems to be the subtext, that the consistency no longer resides in North America. It's a subtle but potent diplomatic signal.
Interesting. But they're not just relying on the WTO, are they? What else is in their playbook?
No, they're pursuing multiple angles. For instance, the finance minister, Fernando Haddad, he's scheduled to meet the U.S. Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent,
How does that?
August 13th. So that points to attempts at direct negotiations, trying to talk it out.
Makes sense. What else?
They're also actively trying to diversify its trade network, less reliance on the U.S. market.
Looking elsewhere.
Big focus on BRICS partners, particularly China and India, trying to strengthen those ties to offset the U.S. pressure.
And is that working? Any examples?
Yeah, actually, China already approved 183 Brazilian coffee exporters right after the Trump tariff announcement.
Wow, that was fast. Throwing them a lifeline.
Pretty much. And the Lula government is also preparing a support package domestically.
So the industries hit hardest.
Exactly. Things like subsidies, maybe low-interest loans, trying to help them find new markets or just survive.
And what about lobbying? Are Brazilian companies trying to make their case in the U.S.?
Oh, yes. Exporters, industry groups, they're actively lobbying U.S. officials.
Arguing what? That hurts Brazil.
Not just that. Crucially, arguing it hurts U.S. consumers and businesses, too. Trying to build pressure from within the U.S.
And President Lula himself. He's been pretty outspoken, right?
Very. Calling the tariffs unacceptable, part of that long history of U.S. intervention.
And didn't he say something quite defiant?
He did. He basically said, I'm not going to humiliate myself by constantly chasing talks if Trump isn't willing to genuinely engage.
So digging in his heels.
Yeah, it really underscores how deep this rift is. Brazil seems determined to stand its ground here.
The ripple effect global trade at a crossroads.
Okay, let's pull back again. Look at the bigger picture. What does this specific dispute really mean for, well, everyone else, for global trade?
Well, like we touched on, critics see this as more than just a U.S.-Brazil issue. They see it setting a dangerous precedent.
That phrase again.
Yeah, because the core worry is this weaponization of trade policy. Yeah. Using tariffs for political reasons, things completely unrelated to trade itself.
Like the Bolsonaro prosecution.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that approach, it undermines predictability. How can businesses plan if market access can just vanish based on political whims?
It encourages retaliation, too, right? The tit-for-tat thing.
Definitely. And it just erodes trust between nations. If the rules can be ignored like this...
Then what are the rules worth?
Precisely. It risks leading to a much more chaotic global system, where maybe access depends on ideological alignment, like we said, or political subservience.
It's not fair competition, a different kind of battlefield.
Could be an economic one driven by politics.
So this brings us back to you, the listener. Especially if you're maybe an investor looking at places like Brazil, emerging markets. What does this mean practically?
It definitely throws a big layer of uncertainty onto investing in Brazil right now.
Even though some investment is still flowing in.
Right. Foreign direct investment is still robust in some areas. Brazil still has fundamental strengths. But investors are getting cautious. They seem to be prioritizing sectors insulated from political risk. Things like agriculture for global markets or renewable energy, which has its own momentum.
So if someone is looking to invest, what are the strategies being recommended?
Well, several key things emerge. First, hedge against currency volatility. That 27% drop in the real, that's a flashing red light. So using financial tools to protect against currency swings is crucial.
Okay, hedging. Makes sense.
Second, focus on resilient sectors. Look for industries less exposed to these specific U.S.-Brazil tensions, maybe ones with diverse export markets or strong domestic demand.
Got it. Third,
monitor judicial and trade developments really closely. The outcome of Bolsonaro's case, how the WTO dispute unfolds, these are critical inflection points. They could change everything.
So keep your eyes peeled.
Constantly. And finally, diversify geopolitical exposure. Don't be overly reliant on U.S.-centric trade routes. Look at assets linked to BRICS or other blocs showing resilience. Spread the risk.
It really sounds like Brazil is at a kind of political crossroads.
I think that sums it up well. Their ability to maintain judicial independence, ensure political stability, that's going to be absolutely vital for attracting capital and just navigating what feels like a more fractured global economy.
Yeah. Outro. So when we wrap this all up, what we've really seen today is it's more than just tariffs, isn't it?
Much more. It feels like a high-stakes chess match. Trade policy being used as this really powerful and, controversial political weapon.
It's such a clear example of how something happening domestically in one country, like a court case, can just ripple out across global supply chains, across international relations.
Yeah, in ways we're probably still figuring out. And this kind of action, it forces countries to really rethink their alliances, their economic weak spots.
It shifts the whole playing field.
It really does. It shows how even established norms, institutions like the WTO, can be challenged. and how nations are maybe increasingly looking for other ways, alternative paths, to find economic security outside those traditional structures.
So, here's something to think about. As we see these trade disputes getting more and more tangled up with politics, how might that speed up this bigger reshaping of global economic power?
That's the multi-trillion-dollar question, isn't it?
Could Brazil's pivot towards BRICS, this deliberate diversification, could that be a sign of a larger, maybe fundamental shift, a shift in which economic blocs really hold the most influence?
And how that might ultimately affect stability, the flow of trade, markets, and, consumer prices for all of us right around the world for years, maybe decades to come.
Something definitely worth watching.